Thanks for joining me. I'm happy to have you guys. My first one was with some of my own colleagues. I'm a classical flutist, but I've played with Ryan several times, and that's uber fun playing stuff that's non-classical. It's such a joy because we get so into the dots often. And so I wanted to make this music makers chat for all the musical genres because it's all just great music. So I invited Ryan to be our second panel and invited all you fine people. So I want to hear from Liza because I think I play with some of your colleagues. You cross over too, right?
Yes, I try to do all of the things.
All right, well, tell us.
What do I do? I'm a cellist. I play regular, traditional, beautiful classical cello, and I play electric cello. I do a bit of teaching. Cello takes me all over the world. I've traveled like wonderfully everywhere that you could imagine. And I love working with kids. And I've developed an online education music system for kids. That's my other big project. Thank you, COVID. And here I am with you today, and this is awesome.
That's amazing. I just found out about your online musical journey and I was very excited to read about it. And I'm going to share it with all of my music teacher friends who are in classrooms because I think it's a resource that everybody needs because how do we teach music online? You know, it's so very hard.
It is very hard.
When you can't be there and move fingers and see up close. But you're also playing Devah Quartet.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
that's my alter ego that likes to play the heavier side of rock and metal. We recently did we covered Rush's 2112. We've covered Tool's Lateralis. We play a lot of heavy stuff, and I rate all the original music, which is kind of in the prog metal genre.
That's so awesome. I would be totally into it if you wrote a flute part just there
Maybe I will
as a
one
guest.
day.
Because
I've never
I
written for
play,
flute.
I think it'd be fun.
I think so.
Wow pedals and other kinds of fun stuff. It'd be fun. All right. Thank you, Liza. Welcome. Jason?
Thank you.
Who are
Well,
you? Why are you in my living room?
I'm probably the only one here that doesn't have a degree in music.
Not true.
So that makes me feel somewhat underachieving. But I'm a rock guy.
Awesome.
I play bass. I can play a few other things, but I really stick to bass because everybody needs one.
100%.
Yeah. The fact that I get so many gigs is not because I'm the best. It's because I'm available. But yeah, I played with Ryan for 100 years. I think we were doing those own your voice things for over 12 years, right?
Yeah.
And that's
So
been,
it's
I've
gotta be
actually
That's only the half of it.
Yeah, I and then we toured together and played in the Ryan Luchuck band. The thing I do now when there's not a pandemic is I play in a band called White Cowbell, Oklahoma, which is very thunderously rock and roll. The Allman Brothers meets Deep Purple or something.
Wow.
And I've been doing that for now going on 9 years, and I think I looked it up the other day. I played something over 800 shows with that band in the last 9 years or something.
How often do people say more cowbell to you thanks to Saturday Night Live?
It's ridiculous. I don't. It's horrible.
Sorry.
Well, no. But people, I actually have 2 Facebook profiles just so that the people will post those memes just on the South Paul Jones one, and my nieces and nephews and stuff like that don't have to put up with why is Uncle Jason why do people post all this crazy stuff on his yeah,
because Chris Walken is brilliant. I mean, how can you argue? Right?
Yeah. But that's been that's my main thing, along with Ryan's Own Your Voice thing that that I do mostly. And We travel a lot. Our bread and butter's in Europe, so that's where we've been spending 2 or 3 months a year for the past a bunch of years.
Awesome.
And that's it's been tough not being there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's brutal. Thanks.
We lost
Welcome.
42 dates
Yeah.
in Europe.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's painful. I'm
Terrible.
so sorry. All right, Lou.
Yeah, I'm having an issue because I lost my power cable, and it's like, no, there it is. Okay. Whew.
And your battery's
Just
dying?
in the nick of time. That was close. I was like
Worked out really well.
10 seconds away from complete disaster.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I guess, like, do you want to hear about the before times? Is that what we're mostly talking about here?
Yes.
All right, sure,
So,
yeah.
Who are you that brought you here?
Yeah, so I guess, like, Ryan brought me here. I've been doing various vocal things with Ryan for a long time, kind of alongside his studio, but also with him and his projects and things like that. He likes to make me play instruments that I don't know how to play for his projects and other people's. I mostly am a singer. I sang with the a cappella group Cadence for the last 9 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but unfortunately that has come to an end. There was, it was partially because of the pandemic, and partially we've just been going a long time, and it was time for change. But now, yeah, I'm trying a bunch of different projects, and it's been a lot of fun. But mostly a singer. I used to sing with chorally with a group called the Nathaniel Deck Chorale, based in Toronto here, and I've played in lots of bands, playing keyboards sometimes, and singing sometimes, and yeah.
Do you still sing
things.
with Nathaniel Deck?
I haven't for a long time. I sang with them full time before I was in Cadence, and I hadn't really done anything with them in the last 8 or 9 years. But who knows? Maybe I'll call up Brainerd and see if they need a tenor for a gig coming up once everything is over.
Well, they're doing a project with an orchestra
yeah?
that I'm familiar with because I play in it, and just a heads up, and that'll be one of their.
I mean, yeah, I would love to. I mean, I'd love to just see them do it. That's such a fun. I had so much fun when I sang with them, and they're such a powerful group to hear live. So,
well, once it gets announced officially, and I can officially tell you, I'll send you a note.
Please do.
We were supposed to play with them this past Christmas, but of course,
nice.
Things. So hopefully, if we can all be together in a concert, then hopefully it'll be this year. So watch for that. Well, welcome. Lou. Do you prefer Lou or Lucas?
Yeah, I mean, either one. I just like, I'm going by Lou because it was my grandfather's name, and my partner started calling me that a few years ago as a nickname, and it's kind of sticking, and it sort of has to do with the project that we've been working on, and so I'm trying it out for size.
So if I start saying Cindy Lou Who, that won't work.
You can call me Lou. Call me Lou. Call me Lou.
Okay. Well, welcome, Lou. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Ryan. Okay, so just Lou and I were talking. And, he questioned me on the whole indie funk thing, and that was because I blamed you, because that's what you kind of called yourself, and I didn't know who any of these people were I was going to be talking to until, because you brought them.
Okay.
So I apologize to everybody for mislabeling you, but that's Brian's fault. You see how I called him Brian just to make it wrong for him too? There you go.
Now I know what it feels like.
Anyway,
he's hurt. Look, he's hurt.
Yes.
The bone.
No. So indie, we're all independent musicians, really.
Yeah.
Especially now, we're independent in our little boxes, right?
Probably what happened, Jay, is you asked me, how do you want me to dress? And I said, funky.
You blame me?
I was wondering too, and I didn't, because I thought, yeah, that's interesting, but I didn't want to say anything because,
Oh, sure. Now you're throwing it back at me. You're very good at that. Is he good at that normally? Is that his thing? You people who know him better than I do. Yeah,
Well,
throwing
if-
people
if
under
you'd
the
like
bus.
to- if you'd like to ask my wife, we can get her in. She might have an opinion, possibly.
She holds drumsticks. I wouldn't want to put you at risk.
True.
So Ryan, give everybody a rundown of where you've come from.
Well, I think I started, I wanted to be, a singer-songwriter, and so I was following that path, and that led me to this guy right here. I'm pointing at Jason.
Okay.
Who are you
Random.
pointing at?
And
This
we
guy.
played together for years and had all kinds of shenanigans, and I could tell you stories that would make your mustache curl, but I won't.
Even if you don't have a mustache.
Exactly. And we loved it. We had a great time. I made my money playing covers, mostly playing in piano bars and doing those kinds of all request sort of drunken college type gigs. And then that sort of started to feel like it was hitting a bit of a wall, and I'd always really struggled with my voice and had to work really hard and study hard in order to get it to work at a relatively functional level. And so I started passing on some of that information that I had learned and found that I just loved it. And in many ways, I like it as much or more than performing. So that became kind of the next stage of my career. And so I've been doing that for a long time. And then in the last 3 years, I've been trying to re-embrace and do my own music again with a project that we've played together in called How to Make People Like You. I don't remember how we hooked up, but
I think it
You'll have to
was
forgive
Paul Tarasov suggested, because he
Paul.
needed he said you need a flute player, and I've been using him because he's mostly jazz, but he wanted to play some classical stuff too, and he plays both, and so I booked him for a couple of orchestra gigs to play with me, and we got on well, and so I think he was sort of returning the reference.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad,
Paul's
because
the
I've been
man.
having
Yeah.
so much fun, even though we're packed into an even smaller room than I'm in right now. That was kind of crazy. That was kind of crazy. I don't know if
Can I
any of you
just
people
say-
were there, because it was so small I could hardly see myself and the stand, let alone who else was in the room. I have no idea. Were any of you part of that 11?
Oh yeah, I was there.
I was there too.
So hi again. I have no idea. I couldn't see anybody.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of people in that room.
Well, and the
Yeah.
next time we worked together, we tried to cram like 20 people on the Rivoli stage or something.
Yes. Oh, were you guys
So-
behind me on that?
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah, I was there for that one.
all
Yes,
of us
I
were there
thought-
for that one except for Liza, and Paul actually called me. He's like, "Man, it's like I had to tell these people that every single gig with you is not going to be like this."
How much can you do in the tiny, tiny, itty bitty space?
Yeah.
I did have the Robin Williams line, great immense power, itty bitty living space from Aladdin, the cartoon Aladdin. Anyway, I
Oh,
had
yeah.
that running through my
Okay.
Definitely.
I don't know, people-
How's social distancing been going for you, Ryan, with your lack of spatial awareness? Is it working out okay?
I can't even begin to comprehend or to contemplate how to answer that question, but we've been fine. Yeah, things have been good.
I feel like that
So
video. that
basically,
video
Cindy
is, like,
hasn't been letting you out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody, we're getting into these inside jokes again, but so if anybody is out there listening, they're referring to a video we did where we crammed, I think it was 13 people into my front room, which is not very big. I have no idea what the square footage of that room would be.
I think maybe 9 by 9, if
Okay.
anything. Plus, there was a fireplace in the way, so that's
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
and a
And
door.
it's
Not
There's-
100
And there's a
square feet,
piano
yeah.
in there.
There's
a
and
piano.
garbage cans. Yeah.
That too.
2 cellos.
And
Two
garbage
cellos.
cans.
And we thought it would be fun to see if we could get all these people together, many of whom we'd never met before, and rehearse 3 songs and record them. And
We
have
should be very
released-
clear. This was before COVID.
Yeah.
I really want to put up another one of those videos and claim that it was done 2 weeks ago.
Just to be flamed, to get some
Yeah, for
attention. Hey, it's a
sure.
good PR.
Get the clickbait going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a take on that Cure video. where they're all in like a wardrobe getting tossed off a cliff,
Right.
playing little things.
Oh,
You know.
okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
You're dating yourself, Jason.
Yeah, well, no one else would date me.
Oh,
Oh my God. All right. So Ryan, speaking of videos and things that you've done, you've just do you have a teaser for us? Because you said that you're
Oh,
almost
sure.
finished your new you've got
Yeah.
a single coming out. Is this with the same band? Because
Yeah,
I'm
it's
losing track how many bands you're in.
It's the COVID version of the same band, which means that you're playing on it, and then and our awesome singer Norm is in it, and my wife Cindy and myself.
Oh, fun.
And so yeah, it's a cover of the classic "Cruel Summer" from Karate Kid, which everybody loves.
ooh.
And can I show you like a little hint of it?
Yeah, give us a
Well,
teaser and then
So
maybe
do I have to go to share screen?
yes.
Okay.
I just who can share? All panelists. And you have to make sure your sound's connected. If your headphones are connected, we may not hear it. So I'm not sure how that works. We'll figure it out.
Okay. And if all the panelists could mute so we don't hear them giggling away, that'd be much appreciated. Okay.
I wanted to talk over the whole thing.
There's no sound, Ryan. I think you have to unplug and go to your computer sound.
Okay. Can you hear it? Can you hear it now? Are you getting that? Yes? Okay. All right. We'll play like a minute.
Hearts on the streets and the pavements are burning. I sit around, trying to smile, but the air is so heavy and dry. Strange voices are saying, ooh, what did they say? Things I can't understand. It's too close for comfort, this heat has got right out of hand. It's a cruel, cruel summer, leaving me here on my own. It's a cruel, cruel summer, now you're gone.
Anyway, there you go. So that'll be done.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Okay, you can,
Some very good flute playing in that.
oh, thank you. Thank you. So, so can you tell us who else was on that? Can you stop sharing your screen? Tell us who else was on the recording.
Well, other than the vocal, it's just me nerding out and doing my thing, and of course my wife is playing on it as well.
Could we know her name instead of just your wife?
Yes, of course. Cindy, her name is Cindy Go, and
Cindy.
she has similar resentments to Lucas in that she considers herself first and foremost a singer, but I make her play percussion in the group, which she's quite good at.
Yes. She's loads
I
of
like Ryan's attitudes with singers. Most people come at singers with like, yeah, you can't play an instrument, you're just a singer. Ryan's attitude when he meets a singer is like, oh, you must be able to play anything.
Well, and with Jason, it was the obvious. Well, it was the opposite. He always said, "Oh, I can't play this and sing it at the same time," but he did.
Yeah. playing the most difficult bass lines I'd ever played, and then oh, here's this third part harmony that's completely counterintuitive to what you're playing. Go.
So easy on bass to do that.
Yeah. And then, well, yeah, and then the follow-up was always you're getting ahead. You're getting ahead when it comes to the chorus. You're pushing. I'm like,
I think that came from our drummer, not me. I would never said something so insensitive.
Again, throwing people under the bus. So Jason, talk to me about how you ended up going to Europe and why that was such a thing. I mean, it seems like a lot of people are finding themselves going overseas. Is that the typical Canadian thing? You haven't made it until someone else thinks you're good? Or is that where there's just more people and more money going towards arts and entertainment? Or how'd you get there?
I think it's a bit of all of those things, especially if you think about it in the terms of a rock and roll based music, the attitudes are very different. So I mean, I like all kinds of music. I have nothing against what you might consider hipster music, or I like jazz, I like everything, but there's a particular stigma here in Canada. Rock just it's not cool today, right now. It'll be cool again at some point, but that sort of, 6 people on a stage playing guitars and doing it loudly is not always is not as in fashion as it once was. And over there it's a completely different completely different animal. So we'll play shows over there, and there'll be 3 generations of like there'll be a granddad, a son, and a grandson. And the arts it is a different, like in the Netherlands for sure, they very much support the venues. All the venues get huge. Like, I know just off the top of my head, Paradiso in Amsterdam, where we normally play when we play there, they get something like 2 million euros a year just to buy talent, to book shows from the Dutch government. And they're always trying. All the venues have great infrastructure. The people will go see a rock and roll show at 8 o'clock, that's great. I really enjoy that, actually. Playing at 8 is nice. They'll see a rock show at 8 o'clock, and then they'll stay to go to the club night, and then stay later to go to the rave night, after they've had fun. And the festivals are a whole other thing there. They don't, we play a lot of festivals, and that it's an attitude difference, and we just fit in very well there. Like, we can't, the whole idea of festivals here in Canada, and all of them going out of business and going bankrupt, and you show up, you've got to go through like a 2-hour line to get in. You have to stand in another line to get beer tickets, and then go to it makes it very awkward. And I think that's part of the downfall. Whereas in Europe, I mean, there's just people with barbecues selling brisket, and everything is very out in the open, and no one's getting hurt, and everybody's making money. And I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Everybody is still finding a way to make money playing loud music, especially in we do very well in Benelux, Germany, northern France. That's all. It's just I don't know how else to explain it than it's another world. I love Canada, and I wouldn't want to be from anywhere else, but festivals are a different beast here.
Probably a function of population density as well.
Certainly.
We're strung along a very thin line, and weather also impacts us. But also, I think you're right, the government support. I mean, even in the classical world, government support is vastly different here than it is over there, and it drastically impacts what we can do. I mean, even in the States, they don't have as much government support, but there's more, tax breaks. And so there's like private donations actually are useful. And there's also massive population density. So we're kind of in an in-between place, and it impacts, I think, all the arts.
Yeah. And I know it's also just touring over there is just a lot easier. I mean,
Well,
again, we're talking about
basically.
geography.
Yeah.
It's easier because of the geography, but also people ask us all the time, why don't you guys go? Why aren't you guys playing in the States? Why aren't you going to the States? People would love you in the States. And we do sell, like when they have Bandcamp Fridays, we're selling tons of downloads in the States. It's not that we wouldn't have an audience. It's just that, we're not going to, it just the cost alone of getting the visas for 8 people, the P2s is, it just doesn't, whereas to go to Europe and tour, it's what are you here for? We're here to play music. All right, welcome aboard. When are you leaving? That's it.
Yeah.
And everything right down to the cost of backline, the even the cost of having merch manufactured. It's unfortunate, but it's tougher here. So I have nothing but respect for people who do make a real go of it here in Canada and North America in general.
Do you have any experience in the East, like in Korea and Japan and China? Because I know the classical musicians do really well there. They often establish them like an entire, other career that nobody hears about in North America. But there's a lot more support for music there too.
It's been suggested to us, and I'm sure there could be something that would work there. I'm very good friends with a band from China they're actually from Mongolia, called Hangai. I toured with them a bunch of times as a driver and assistant tour manager, and they're like the biggest thing since I don't know what, like they're the biggest Chinese band. Right? They won whatever the version of China's Got Talent is at one point. It's been offered, like they have a festival in China every year to go, but it's that's the only, it's not like that's the anchor and then we can play 12 more shows. I know Lucas has way more experience in Asia than, and I think the format of what Lucas was doing with Cadence is actually would lends itself a little better to touring on a train or what have you.
Right. So Lucas, you want to talk about your time in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of stuff in Europe too, and like all the stuff Jason's saying, like really I really relate to, like the festival circuit. Like for us, it was Germany, that's like super into a cappella music, and we could do all kinds of shows there. And trying to travel to the States, as he said, is just a total pain and super expensive, and getting more expensive all the time. And now with all of these restrictions, like who knows what it's going to be like when it opens up again. I mean, it's trying to travel in the States, if you are not a huge act from Canada, it's just getting harder and harder and harder, and everyone's just getting squeezed out of it, and it's really terrible. So that's my rant on that. But
yeah, I understand that the union is trying to, I don't know if you guys are members, but I know they're working really hard to get the P2s down from $600, which is what they went up to, which is ridiculous. But I know that indie bands, I don't know if it's easier for you, or does the union help, you get that, but I know they're trying to get those costs reversed now that there's a new government in there. So
yeah, but even before Trump was in there, we were still having the same issues. I just think it's just a trend, and it's, we need a little bit more help than we're getting if we're going to try, and if we can do that. But I feel like that's in the past now for me. But anyway, the Asia thing, yeah, we were an a cappella quartet, so touring is pretty easy. We try to travel with our own mics sometimes, but when you're traveling in Asia, you can't even do that because we use wireless mics, and there's different frequencies that are allowed there than here. So we can't even travel with any of our gear, really. We bring like a couple little effects units, like a reverb that we like, and like a subharmonic processor to give like a little extra bottom end. But yeah, it's like can all fit in a backpack, so it's it's pretty good for train travel. Yeah, we were doing shows in Singapore and Taiwan and China primarily, with the last few years kind of focused on China. But that was weird too, because like things politically between our two countries have kind of in the past 3 or 4 years not gone in a very good direction. So we definitely had some uncomfortable moments on our last tour there, which was I think 2019 or so.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine going there now. Like, I mean, obviously during COVID, no, but even after it's done, like I don't think that those kinds of options are going to be as readily available as they were 3 or 4 years ago.
Had you
But
considered Japan or Korea?
yeah, I mean, we have a few contacts there, but it's just a matter of, you have to kind of like put in the time doing shows at different places. And so we're doing shows in fairly big venues in China, and we did some huge shows in Taiwan and stuff, but each place has its own industry, and you have to kind of like make your way in each place kind of on your own. You get a little bit of help from some other places close by a little bit sometimes, but
Were you
yeah.
guys using agents or managers, that kind of thing, to help? Jason, that's a question for you too. Did you guys have agents on the at least on
Yeah.
like overseas helping you?
Oh yeah, we have a a legion of agents, because it's, you know, it would be great to have one agent who just did Europe, but you know, we attempted that at one point. Our Canadian agent was swallowed up by the agency group at one point. I'm going to try to be politically sensitive here.
Yeah. No
and
names.
not say bad
No
things about the biggest
names.
agency in Canada, but
Please don't.
but yeah, no. But the bottom line was they just didn't have a space, you know. They kind of moved us away from the guys who were working really well for us in Europe and said, no, we have our own guys over there. And that messed us up for a couple of years, really. But we have now made up with all the guys that they pushed away, thankfully. But it's, you know, because of the languages, and we have one guy for Benelux, one guy who does France and Italy. We have another guy in Spain. We have a German guy. And then the German, you know, one of those guys does the UK as well. I can't even keep track anymore, but it's definitely, it was the anchor for getting our band over there was before I was in the band. So like we're talking 12 years. It was the 60th anniversary of Liberation Day in the Netherlands. And that's Canada played a big part in that. So there was again, the Dutch government produced a bunch of money saying, yeah, bring Canadian bands over to play. And that's how the ball started rolling. And then from there, they got agents. You know, more agents wanted to sign them because they like the music, and it reads well over there. So you know, we definitely have a good crew of people that work for us over there. It wouldn't be possible if we had to do it ourselves. Especially, it gets really tricky because in Germany they want to book a year in advance. Like
Right.
you have like that's the short term is like, you know, they want to talk. They'll even talk to you 2 years out, and then give you the, you know the contract comes on a year. Whereas, you know, in in Italy or in France, they don't really want to talk to you. So we got time. You could call us 3 months out. So if you're trying to do a tour that involves more than one country over there, you got to get these guys working together, and they do that quite well. You know, they know each other's rhythms, and they can get it done. Yeah, it would be impossible to do on your own.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Liza, you said that you've traveled a lot. Is that in the similar vein, like through bands or
Yeah,
whatnot?
it's the same
experience.
same kind of thing. I mean, the most amount of touring I did was with my sort of classical crossover group, Quartetto Gelato.
Oh yes.
And like what Jason was saying, like we had agents in every country. we even had an agent in Quebec that handled anything to do with because that's like, it's basically its own nation. I mean,
Yeah.
So yeah, like whether it was inside Canada or we had several in the States, we had one in China, Korea, like you name it, Russia, like yeah, it's interesting. It's a little big world, and it's yeah.
Did you find that you were more popular, like Quartetto Gelato, more popular overseas than you were here? Because I mean, I've heard of it, and most people have. I mean, I've been around a while, but you know, like most people in Canada are familiar with the group, and despite all the changes. But are you finding that it? Because I understand, like with rock and indie music, Canada tends to be a little bit slower. But is that the same in classical?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I know enough to have like a solid opinion of that, but I do know like Canada's very loyal, but Quartetto Gelato would never play more than maybe one or two shows in certainly in Ontario, because then like nobody wants to keep going to see you, you know. So you would save your performances. Maybe you would fly and do like a Vancouver thing, which is like far away enough. But we spent more time abroad, you know, and then it was kind of like you had to go away and then build up some word of mouth and some momentum, and then come back. People like, ooh, they're back from the thing, and then you would book your show in like locally upon the return.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting, but there's always been a wonderful, like a really sincere and loyal following here, for sure.
Right. I wonder, it's probably a population thing again. It's just, you know, you've
Yeah,
seen you. Yeah.
yeah,
Also,
that's it.
everything's more expensive here too.
Yeah.
In terms of tickets, and because you have to cover sales, like it's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Ryan, have you done much traveling?
Not a lot, and nothing. I mean, we toured Canada the one time, and that was so traumatic that I never wanted to do it again. And other than that, I played in the States multiple times, never legally, but
Oof. Say goodbye to any P2
That's
you
it.
ever get.
That's
it
it.
was a very long time ago, and I regret every second of it.
No, you're banned for life now.
I can cut that bit out for the recording.
Yeah, I mean, my situation with that is that what happened with the voice teaching is that it built up, and I just started spending way too much money that I can't afford to disappear and not be able to, you know, cover my overhead back home, kind of thing. So I just don't have the freedom in my life, and I would love to do more of it, but at the same time, having said that, I think I'm very much a homebody too. When we were on tour, I would just remember watching Jason and think he loves this. He loves, you know, a different place every night, and I kind of envied that because I really didn't have that much fun in terms of it being a long-term lifestyle thing. We had a great time on the tour and everything, but I don't think I could do it.
I definitely remember watching you and Ben and going and thinking to myself, what the hell did they think this was going to be like?
These guys aren't going to make it.
You know, like how did they think this was going to go? Like this is, yeah, and you know, them being disappointed with what we had, you know, in the bank at the end of the tour, which I think we broke even. And I'm like, are
That's
you
pretty good.
kidding me? First tour ever for a band, we broke even. I was ecstatic, and these guys were so disappointed. I'm like, ooh, this
Yeah.
might not be for you.
Not
you
long
know?
for this world. Yeah. At least when it comes to that way to touring, anyway.
Yeah,
So
just
how
that
did
one
you-
aspect. That's what. Yeah.
So you guys, tell me about how you guys all hooked up and met musically. I mean,
Who wants to take?
I answered an ad in the back pages of Now magazine,
Yeah. That's a
Oh,
great
and that's
yeah.
origin
actually the
story.
truth.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Back,
Hey,
back
let me
when,
tell the rest of the story. Let me tell the rest. So Jason came in dressed in his Doritos uniform because he was working for Doritos at the time, and he'd send us these recordings, and they sounded great. We're like, oh man, this guy's going to be an amazing bass player. And he comes in, he's like, oh, I'm really tired, and sweaty uniform, greasy, and needless to say, it took more than one audition, but but we're so lucky things worked out the way they did. It was quite fortuitous because we've been playing together now for so long. And when we started doing workshops with the voice studio, which is how I guess I met everybody else pretty much in a roundabout way, Jason's been right there from the very beginning.
I think I've only missed 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, once in a while, if he's on tour and some we can't get him, and but we always miss him when he's not there.
Tell me
Yeah.
about being an indie in Toronto.
Are you talking to me?
Anybody, talk to
Oh,
me about
everybody, yeah.
playing. Everybody, tell me.
We're
That's
like,
not
I
that's not
don't
for
know
me
what
to
to
say. I don't know what to say about that anymore. Like honestly, like what does that even mean now? Like I don't even know.
Okay, we can talk about the before times because things might come back. You know, we have to figure out
Yeah.
where we're going.
Yeah, but is it even going to be like it was? Like so many big venues in town have shut down. So many like historic venues have shut down. Like it's been really sad to see this happen. I
Yeah.
mean, places will pop up eventually, but like, what's it going to be? It's weird. I don't think we can necessarily look at it as like, oh, if there's going to be an after, then there's going to be a line like this. Like we're gonna have we're gonna have a lot in between.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
I think that's true. I mean, I'm very optimistic that live music is. I mean, I hear people sometimes say that big concerts are never coming back. I definitely don't believe that for a second. But yeah, how long is it going to be? And I think smaller shows are actually coming back before
Yeah, for sure.
big events.
That's what concerns me the most, because we don't, intimate settings are not what that don't work for us.
Yeah.
So there's chainsaws and burlesque dancers and all these antics as part of the show.
Can I tell a funny story of when I played with Jason's band?
Please.
I played keyboards for one gig, and I hope we get to do this again soon at the Horseshoe. But just to give you an idea,
No, it was at Lee's Palace.
Oh, sorry, Lee's Palace.
It was the Christmas Christmas show. Yeah.
Jason's band is a phenomenal band, so I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I was playing keyboards. I was behind a row of Marshall stacks, and I was right next to their drummer, and I couldn't hear the drummer during the show because Chris at one point I was like, whoa man, and I had earplugs in and I could kind of make out what I was playing, and I had earplugs in. I thought, holy man, these guitars are really loud. And Chris turned around, walked over to his amp and went like this. Whoosh. and that was coincidentally the point where I couldn't hear the drums anymore. But yeah, so that is going to be tricky, hey? You guys do play intimate venues in Europe sometimes. I mean, you've shown me pictures of.
We do. Oh yeah, for sure. Like for especially in the markets we are not as well known in, we'll certainly play a Monday or a Tuesday night wherever we can just get a free place to stay. There's a lot of that going on, trust me. But we'll do whatever we can. We've stacked amps on top of amps just to get everything in there, and we scale it down a little bit. But that's the difference between here and there. In Europe, we can get away with that because people know the words to the songs, or they know, the anchor to get them there was the music. They recognize the music. I mean, there's like 7 records and a couple of live ones now, so it's been around long enough that people really, are digging it. The problem is here in Canada, again, I think the music might be considered a little passé by the young hip kids. Today, anyway, this might change tomorrow when, when something happens. But so if we don't do that full on show, like if there isn't the chainsaw, if there isn't fire, if there isn't, dancing girls, then we get shot down hard. Like it's, these guys phoned it in. So but that's here, and I can appreciate that because there's historically the the band has done that here forever, and we do that in Europe as well, but it's a whole other thing. In here in Canada, they'll review the show poorly if we didn't have enough fire. In Europe, the reviews will be good, but they'll say something like, well, these guys showed some very, very good musical skills, and I like the guitar harmonies very much. All these other things, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a bit stupid. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I've had guys come up to me after the show. It's packed, and you go to the merch table and you're signing things, and people will go, yeah, your music is your music's very nice. Yeah, it's very, very nice music. It's a little bit stupid, but it's very nice. Would you sign all these? I bought all your records. Would you sign? I don't know what's happening. So that aspect's not as important. We have toured without the chainsaw in Europe, and the tour's done just fine, and done well. If we tried to do that here in Canada, it would just be, city after city of bad reviews. So that's why I say here it's going to be tough. Like our big show every year is this Christmas Xmas, it's called, at Lee's. And it's been over 20 years that show's been going on now, and it's the first one that's been missed. We didn't do it this year, obviously, and we talked with Collective Concerts, and they were really willing to like do something at the Horseshoe and do a broadcast, and then we could bring in European fans to watch it and stuff. But it just, in the end, then there was a second wave, and that couldn't happen anyway. But for us to pull that kind of a show with a big screen in front of us and 40 people in the audience, it would be very tough.
It's hard to get up that kind of energy.
Yeah,
I know. I've watched a number of orchestral things that have been done online and without any clapping, and orchestras have varying degrees of response to not having an audience and no clapping. Like they stand up, some of them stand up and act as though they're still in a performance, and they bow, and it's like it's silent. I've seen these recordings, it feels so awkward. Like they don't include that in the broadcast, but I've seen the back end, or you're part of I haven't done one yet because I've stayed home, but I've watched some of my colleagues do these big things, and it's eerie. It's kind of an eerie feeling, and you realize how important your audience is, and they're like half the show.
Well,
right?
Lucas and Ali did their own spin on that this year, and really did an amazing job and put something really cool together.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. That's we ran sort of a house party series over the last, I guess it was since mid-November or so. Ryan and Cindy were on our very first episode of this, but we did 5 kind of bi-weekly house parties where we would host 2 sets of guests at each one. So it was kind of like, we like to have people over at our place when it's not a pandemic, and have good hangs and good chats, and sometimes there's some music making. And so we kind of did a live stream that had that feel to it, where we'd each play 3 songs, we'd chat a little bit, we'd maybe play a game that involved our streaming audience, and it was a fun kind of hour and a half or so on a Saturday night. So that was our Ali and Lou's house party. If you want to check it out, you can Google that and you can find what we did. But it was an interesting thing to try, because like we both miss making music. My partner's a multi-instrumentalist and also a middle school teacher, so she's been she's been going through a lot of interesting things with her job, as have I, and it was just a nice opportunity for the 2 of us to make a bunch of music together, and like have a reason to sit down and learn some new songs and write some songs, and engage some of our musical friends and catch up with them, and do something that felt like a gig. Like it was nice. It was a lot of work, but it was really fun. We may come back to it at some point down the road.
How different did it feel?
Well, I was actually a little bit more surprised by the similarities than by the differences, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
doing sound checks and stuff and trying to get the tech running properly and trying to, it's like we would, and then trying to organize a bunch of musicians to be there. I mean, they all did a good job of being there and doing that, but there were so many things that were the same kind of nerves, the same, like, I hope this works, or like the same, I'm trying this song and trying to do it without any music for the first time. I don't know if this is going to work. And so the only difference was that there was just nobody in the room with us except our cat, but who made a lot of guest appearances. But it's very strange feeling, like sitting in your living room and getting ready for a show and like moving all of your furniture so you have everything set up the way you were setting it up like it's a stage, and doing the whole thing, and organizing promo online, and it all felt like doing a gig. There's so many things that were the same except for the people there in person.
Well, and some of the things that surprised me, and so I'm really hoping that we can do a gig with How to Make People Like You, like a live stream gig, because one of the biggest problems about doing indie shows, especially original music, is getting enough people out, not disappointing the bookers too much,
Mm-hmm.
And but when we did the live stream, it was, we were a little bit delinquent on our promo, so we got something out the day before, and we still had 15-20 people sign on to watch us, because it essentially opened, now everybody in the world is potentially in your audience. And you guys had the tip jar going. We actually made pretty decent money, especially when you consider we played for 10 minutes.
For sure, yeah, it's doable.
Liza, tell me,
cool thing.
Tell me what you've been up to. Have you been able to do anything online, or thinking about future stuff, or?
Well, I was just thinking, I was listening to all what everybody's saying and how it's very strange right now. Everything in the arts is weird. It's not like what it used to be. And everybody, all the creative minds, the neat thing is that there's a lot of opportunity too, right? And people are thinking out of the box. They're reaching out. And in some ways, it's not the best, because there's nothing that replaces being in the same room as with somebody else. But it's opened up some doors, like what Ryan was saying, like you have now access to the whole world because everybody's at home, like there's nothing to do, and people are looking for things to do. And I have friends that have like weekly live streams, or like anything that they can do. They're starting to schedule these things, and they're getting more and more views, more followers. Whereas before, if you're playing like a weekly or monthly gig at like a hotel or something, would that lead anywhere? I don't know. Toronto doesn't have the same scene, I don't think, as it used to anyway. But now there's like an online scene that's starting up, which I think is kind of exciting, especially in a way. I mean, it's still weird. And I hope that we can all play for real people, like not like, you know what I mean, like in person, in the same room, and feel the vibe back and give that energy, which is what everybody loves and I think misses the most, is like the energy.
Yeah.
But I think that the creative projects and the ways that other artists have been able to reach out to other people has been really, really cool and exciting to watch. I think it's really neat.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Ryan.
Was Music by Candle, was that born out of COVID, or did you have that idea? Like, did you plan to do that before?
No, I did not plan to do that before. And if I had, I probably wouldn't have done it. It was a total COVID project. It was the kind of thing where you're like, literally, I will not forget. I was lying on the floor of my living room, like talking to my colleague from Quartetto Gelato, Colin. We're like, we've lost all our gigs. Like, there's nothing going on. There's nothing to do. What are we going to do? And having like just a moment of like, oh my God. Like I had just started playing in the Mervish production for Hamilton. And that just, as of March 13th, Friday the 13th, I'll never forget. Like that was the last day. And anyway, I think it was like the day after, I was talking to Colin and we're like, what can we do? What's the thing that we can do that doesn't seem to be something anybody else is doing? One thing that I learned over the course of time was the lack of like high quality music education resources for people, especially because I was doing a lot of online school with my daughter, thanks to COVID. And there's so much, forgive me for saying this, but it's like a bunch of crap out there. Like it's really bad. Like I would never have any kid listen to some of this stuff. It's all like really, like, I don't know, it's really annoying. Terrible music that no child should be listening to. Like,
no wonder
we
we don't.
building culture, not like pushing it down to this weird common denominator where you assume that everything has to be all like, oh, like just weird stuff out there that not a lot of, I don't know. I'm sounding very judgy right now, and I'll just rein it in. But it's not something I would ever let my daughter watch, honestly. 90% of that stuff. So we were chatting, Colin and I, and we're like, well, let's have a look at all the Canadian curriculums of the music programs from grade 1 to grade 6, because that sounds not too complex. And then it's actually quite complex. And we're still chipping away at it, but we have released the grades 1 to 2 full Canadian. So every province has a different music curriculum, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but I didn't until like April. And then just started chipping away, building up all these little episodes. The series is like an online subscription-based platform that is kind of is intended to help teachers and parents who might be homeschooling or people just looking for something that's educational but also entertaining. So we like to think of ourselves as being like a sort of a higher standard in music education. We use we talk about every genre. We have guests. We have at this point over 70 like wonderful guests, professional Canadian musicians that have come in and talk about, or actually they don't come in, they send us a video where they talk about what they specialize in. And we've had members of the Toronto Symphony. Ryan did a video, actually 2 videos for us with his wife Cindy. We had the guy that DM'd for the JUNO Awards. We've had like this really cool, we've had a couple DJs, like every genre you can think of, and we're still piecing all of this together. And it's all like, it's our friends. And that is, but thank you, COVID, like in a way, because people have had time to do these things. Whereas before, everybody's working, everybody's busy, you're on the road. As if I have time to put together some little, FaceTime video to send out. But, with artists being home and being open to doing new things, we've had a huge opportunity. And thanks to that, we're able to send these videos and our little lessons about music to anywhere. So kids that would be like up Northern Ontario that would never have any of these guests come in to talk to them can now, listen to Oren Isaacs talk about how he DM'd for the JUNOs. I think that's really cool.
I think that's awesome. Well done, you. And I'm sad that I only found out about it recently, but I'm going to share the resources with because I've got 2 kids. One's in elementary, one's in middle school. So think to grade 8, because they don't have, because especially in Toronto, and I know it might be different across the country, but in Toronto, they generally do not have music teachers until grade 9.
That's true, isn't it?
We're very lucky that in our elementary school, we got a music teacher, and he used to teach 6 to 8, but realized that he has to get them in grade 4 or grade 3, with the recorders and whatnot. In grade 4, he puts instruments in their hands. I probably embarrassed the heck out of my kids when I saw somebody carrying a trumpet, and I was like, where'd that come from? There's a trumpet. And I went, woo! And then that's how I found out that we had like it was September, the first week of September. It's like, we have music. Because when I was in school in my day, 50 million years ago, I learned, we all got instruments at age 10, and that really went away. And so there aren't as many music teachers, and they got rid of the itinerant teachers, and that affected a lot of, my colleagues in the classical world, because that's where they got, it's where we had work. And so it's board level and school level decisions that are getting rid of all of these things. And but I love the diversity that you're bringing, because we need all of these people. We need rock and roll, we need, rap, we need all of it, 'cause it's all creative expression, and everybody needs to be seen and able to do that. And unfortunately, the music teachers that are being hired or that are there don't necessarily have the training needed, or they don't have any resources because it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Or they
it
can't
is.
get jobs.
There's that. But yeah,
I
there's
know
a
where
lot
I-
of
Yeah.
There's lots of good music teachers out there that can't get jobs.
That's
One of them
so
sitting over
true.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
it's a total shame. Like the lack of music education in the public school system is just a travesty. It's terrible. The kind of skills that you learn as a child doing music and being creative, learning to like think outside the box, doing something that's like coordinating your mind and your body. Like the people tend to like compare music education to other subjects in terms of their value, but really I find that music education is probably more valuable than math and science because of the skills it teaches you for the rest of your life. Like it's such a terrible thing that doesn't exist in schools the way it used to.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
teachers know that. I don't know who's not getting the message, but I mean, I think that
Yeah.
explains, and I was thinking this when Jason was telling us about how different it is in Europe, how, hey, that's really great music. And like this, this other foolishness, I don't know, like you're crazy, but the music is good, right? It comes from training and also the environment and whether or not it's a creatively supportive environment. I'm also a graphic designer, and there's very little in the way of visual arts that's supported. Like, I think all of it ties in. I think it's more important than
that's
we're
true.
giving.
Like it has a general dumbing down of the overall culture and music appreciation. I mean, there's amazing music in the mainstream at all times, of course, but at the same time, if people aren't exposed to different styles at a young age, it hurts everybody.
Absolutely. I've been having so much fun being on the factor jury this past season for the artist development program, because I actually have a grant application in for the juried sound recording. But it's been fun to hear, like I've been having to judge, like, none of it's classical, because that's normally, I mean, not very many people apply from the classical world, a very small percentage, but it's been fabulous to listen to get all kinds of interesting things. There's some folk people, and then there's some, nouveau punk and all kinds of stuff. It's been so fun. It's like I'm writing down, oh, that's a good band. Oh, that's another good one. Oh, my son will like that one. I've been having so much fun, but sadly there's like, not enough money to give everybody just a little bit. It's like, go please, and I've been saying, sharing all my reactions in my notes just to encourage people to keep going, because there's an 18-year-old I can't say anything, but like super young, but just really interesting, dynamic music coming out and interesting thoughts. And so it's coming, like people are doing it. There are young people who are doing some cool music, and so I don't know where they're getting it. So kudos to them for finding, the little drips of art. I guess that's all kudos to the music teachers and, and performers. But yeah.
Well, the good news is that it's more accessible than it's ever been. So if you have the instrument, or if you have the interest, you can go for hours and hours and hours constantly finding new stuff. And yeah, I mean, I love it, finding out about Jobin or whatever, and I instantly have his entire catalog. So that's what I spent the last year and a half doing, is just geeking out on his music, and it was much harder 20 years ago when you had to go and you had to hope that something would be even available.
Yes, well, when I was in school, we had to go to the library to listen to anything. So let's just put it out there.
Oh, library is the best. I used to go to the Calgary Public Library and come home with like 30 CDs. I miss those days.
I mean,
you also really lucked out with. I got to go to your high school in Saskatoon, Regina.
Regina. Yeah, we have another
Like
person from Regina on
talk
this
about
call, by the way.
Yeah, music teachers changing someone's life. I have
Yeah.
a feeling that if it wasn't for, what was that guy, Sax? His last name was the
Tom
Sax
Sachs.
Pistols.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that teacher that you had, I could, you could tell, like, you know, that was he was a singularity in your development, as you know, and the way that you play music is not, you know, really caring about the normal things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, why did you choose the nice word?
No, I think it's great because he had little boundaries when it came to, you know, he
Well,
encouraged you guys to do. You could see it with the student. We got to sit in with his students.
yeah,
And
he's an amazing man. I mean, he's retired now, but we still have a very close relationship. And you know, it's funny because Liza's also from Regina, and also went to a school that had an exceptional music program. Um, and so that's always a very fascinating thing to meet professionals and ask them, you know, who that person was. And most of the time, there's some key figure in their history that really had a very, very strong influence on them.
and that goes to me, that goes to what Liza was saying, in that you know, there's a lot of online resources right now for learning how to play whatever you want to learn how to play, but there's a lot of not good information out there. There's a lot of that's not so that's not so great. You know, so having, you know, having something like what Liza's doing with Colin, right? No.
Yeah,
Yes.
with Colin. Yeah, yeah.
With Colin is that's going to be a super resource during this time, but it still doesn't make up for the lack of the saxes and the, you know, the teacher, not the instrument. The you know, going in the schools, like where I grew up, it was grim, man. The only reason I got into music is because I grew up in the Kawarthas, and in Lindsay there was a boys and girls marching band, the Lindsay Kinsman Boys and Girls Marching Band. And if, you know, I hadn't gotten pushed into that because I was getting into too much trouble in other places, and, you know, learned how to play the trumpet when I was 9, then I, you know, who know, I might be in jail. Like, but because there certainly wasn't any music programs in my elementary school, and the high school programs were pretty poor. They did their
Hey,
best,
hey,
but
Jason.
yeah.
Quick question for you: is that marching band still there? Do they still have it?
I think it is, but I think
That's-
it's a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
When we were kids, that band was like, we used to go to, we played it. You know, I remember marching at Disney World with a big stupid sousaphone around my shoulder.
Awesome.
Yeah. How did you get into playing bass, Jason? Well, I didn't want to play the sousaphone anymore. So but you know, I got that band got sent to a lot of really great, we got to travel a lot. I mean, that's probably where the whole touring thing started for me, was just those experiences as a young kid, going to different places that were a little less raucous. But yeah, I know that the programs that are existing now in the Kawarthas, talking to friends who have, you know, my sister, you know, has 3 kids, still growing up in the Kawarthas. It's a shadow of what even it was in the schools when I was there, and it was, you know, it was brutal. Like what was going on in the schools, you know, I remember showing up at grade 7 and going, "You're going to play the recorder now?" And I'm like, "Well, I already play the trumpet. I don't know what this is." And I was the only one, though, you know, in that, from that side of town who, you know, I lucked into it. I got very lucky, but I think more people have to do things like these. The online resources that are there can be exceptionally valuable, and I just hope that well, I'm sure it will, but I hope some cream rises to the top in that respect.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lucas, when are you going to get me a copy of your was it CD or cassette that you did when you were 10 years old.
Of Lucas
But I-
Marchand Sings Terrible. There's only one
I
copy
don't
of it that
think that, I
exists.
don't think that's what it was called, but
He's referring back to this album that I think did we talk about that one on the Winter House Party episode you were on?
comes up every time we talk.
Okay, right. So I recorded. I sang in choirs when I was younger. So the same. I mean, like we all have those stories when we were kids. That's why we're still doing music. Like
Yep.
I sang in some amazing choirs as a kid, and I didn't take a voice lesson until I was deciding to audition for a voice program for university. And so like all of my singing experience came from singing in choirs growing up. And but I did record an album as a boy soprano called Lucas Marchand Sings Terrible. No, it was called Lucas Marchand Sings Treble, but my young cousin thought it was, when she read it out to her family once, she said, why did they call it Lucas Marchand Sings Terrible? So of course it's never been called Lucas Marchand Sings Treble ever since that day.
But that was the name. Treble was the name. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody left you open pretty handily on that one.
I blame my parents. I wasn't old enough to know that would be a problem. But no. Anyway, it was singing in choirs was transformative for me too. We used to tour and go to sing with all kinds of other groups, and just to have that kind of camaraderie with your other singers, other music makers, like once you get a taste of that, like it's a magical thing. And we all know that feeling because we've had it. And there's a lot of people that don't ever get the chance to have that feeling. And that's why we need to have music education, so people can have those feelings, because it is amazing. And once you've done that, you're like, oh, that I got to get that again. That was great.
Yeah, and you're not going to get it from half an hour once a week playing a recorder really badly.
No.
No,
Or
but
the
you know
ukulele
what?
for half an hour once a week.
Yeah.
You know what? Some of these viral things, though, are kind of evoking I don't know if it's because there's a desire to do this, to connect this way, and that's why it's coming up. But you know, like those TikTok viral things, like the sea shanty.
Mhm.
Have all of you heard the sea shanty?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Andrew Lloyd Webber played along with the sea shanty on TikTok. Okay, you know, he
Yeah.
played along, and that floored our lovely, young Scotsman who posted it, and that felt to me, for the first time of watching all of this nonsense, sorry, I mean that kindly, but that had a similar feeling of when you go on a band trip, or you have a really great performance, or you win Kiwanis with your band, which I did all the time because I went to North Toronto, but and so like that gelling, and it happens in stages. Like I was stage crew, and anytime like the drama department would have a fun performance, and it's all that same feeling. And that sea shanty kind of gave that to me, these viral things. So I wonder if we can leverage that somehow. Like, how do we make that? How do we get kids into that?
They're
help
getting
them
into
get
it
there?
themselves. They're getting there themselves. Like that's it, right? Like TikTok came from kids, and
Yes.
they're the ones that came up with all these duet video ideas and singing along with each other through that app. Like
It's
we don't
beautiful.
need to tell them how to do it.
No, but help them learn an instrument and how, and
Sure.
so-
Yeah.
you know what I mean, to support
Yeah, for sure.
kinds of thing, to come up with a
Yeah.
really creative piece to do that's kind of like the sea shanty, or
Help
some
give
kind
them
of
the
band
tools. Yeah,
thing.
for sure. Absolutely. I agree.
I'm thinking like for example, I've got a couple of kids that have gone through one of my orchestras, and they play in the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra, which is an audition to get in. And of course, this year they haven't been able to do anything, but they've come up with ways of connecting online, and like the TSYO has sorted them out. But I haven't seen anything like a TikTok thing where kids layer on top of one another with a piece. So I want a composer, or doesn't have to be classical, it could be like any genre, to write a piece for kids who play all these things, that they can do this kind of duetting. I saw one version of the sea shanty that had 17 different duets all going on, and it sounded great. So why couldn't we do that? But they need a piece to do that with, right? I don't know. I want to see that. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool. I don't know what piece it would be, but I think
don't
that
know.
would be cool.
Then we could write something. Go.
Do it.
Luchuck.
Boom.
Yeah, Ryan, there you go.
That would be something you could add to your your candle thing, your music by candle. Maybe
Like sea shanties.
no, or just have a piece of music that maybe your middle school kids can create a project that goes to CBC, Music Connects or something, like one of those things, like just figure out how that works.
There's a lot. I mean, thanks to everything being online, I do know there are a lot of teachers that are privately engaging their students in learning how to record with a click track and layering on things. Like I have some students that have been doing Pirates of the Caribbean, and they're really excited because there's that because their orchestra teacher has assigned them to do that for orchestra class. I only know that because they're coming in for their online lessons with this thing, and they're like, I don't know how to read this rhythm. I have never seen this rhythm before. So there are things where they are learning how to layer on top. But I mean, TikTok, another thing altogether. But I think what Lucas was saying, when kids want to do a thing, they're just going to do it. And they have been, they're just choosing where their ear is going naturally. And I think it's pretty organic.
Yeah.
Yeah, what could be more organic than sea shanties suddenly becoming viral, right?
Random.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing ever. I love it, love it, love it. I can't stop listening to it.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried Jam Kazam?
No, I don't know what that is.
So that's the music app that I guess they figured out some sort of solution to the delay, and it will allow you to play with somebody in real time.
Cool.
I haven't tried it yet, but
I downloaded it trying to figure out some alternative to a cappella and whatnot. I didn't have anybody else to try it with, and then I'm not sure if there was a paywall or anything, but I haven't actually tried it yet. I'd be willing to if you come up with something I can lay in a track or something like that, or
yeah, well, even just to get on and just play and see how it works and
yeah,
see how
I'd be into
effective
that.
it is, because that has a ton of potential.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
great.
in real time, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've seen mixed reviews is all I've seen. So,
I'm
sure.
highly skeptical.
Yeah,
yes.
it's super dependent on your internet connection, your device and stuff. And that's where the barriers lie for a lot of kids if they're trying to do that, because they just don't have the firepower of internet and hardware to make it work the way it needs to work.
Yeah,
So stuff gets pretty resource heavy.
absolutely. Well, this has been great fun. We've been chatting for a long time, and thank you so much. It's been fabulous. I can't wait till we all meet in person again. And I would love to play with you guys.
Oh,
We all play in Ryan's front room again.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You're welcome to come play anytime in my front room. Only my front room. But
can I just show everybody something before we all go?
Oh, please
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
This is very
Oh, I know it. Oh, yes. Yeah.
What is that?
so speaking of indie, the desperation of indie acts attempting to get some attention, this was the most successful thing we ever did.
it was great. Yeah,
Is
it
somebody
was.
had the idea that instead
On
of
the back, yeah.
instead of postering
Mhm.
or giving out flyers to a show, we should print up gum packages and go to Costco and buy a shitload of gum and insert it into the package and give that away.
You're kidding.
Brilliant. So good.
No way.
Yeah. And people are still
That's
like, hey, still got your gum, man.
That's awesome.
And
love
it
so
worked.
smart.
It worked like a charm everywhere except in Saskatoon, where I think we showed up to Saskatoon and the promoter was putting the gum on the tables as we walked in.
As we were loading gear, it didn't quite
We're
have
like,
the
no,
effect for
you were
some reason.
supposed to give that out before. Forget it.
Oh.
Oh, also the other two local acts from Saskatoon canceled, so you guys can handle
Right.
this yourself, can't you?
Oh, and then there was the
brutal.
dog poop on the stage.
Sounds like a
The
Gangbusters.
what?
Special.
Can we finish with that? Like a quick everybody's worst gig. We just gave one of our worst gigs. What about like Liza and Lucas giving us a quick story of their?
oh man.
There are so many. Is this the
There was one really, really bad gig that I had where the sound guys were threatening. This was Quartetto Gelato. I had no problem with the sound guys. I thought they were fine. But our violinist got in a big fight with one of the sound guys who threatened to beat him up. That was weird. And it was like a big show too. There was like 6,000 people at this show. And the sound guy just took offense to everything that we did. And he sabotaged the violinist's mic. So it was constantly feeding. So it was a really bad show. And that was in California. I'll never forget it. And then they were like threatening the violinist as we were like leaving, and we had to like drag him out. We're like, and half of the time I didn't even know. I was like, bye guys, see you later. Pretty typical me.
Yeah. Thanks everybody.
This was great. That was a bad one.
Hit me up on Instagram.
Oh. Yeah. Lucas, you have a story?
Oh man, I don't know. I think just yeah, that's tough. There's lots. There's not a big one, not a big one coming to mind, but you know, there you can point to any number of gigs where you feel like wallpaper on the wall and you really weren't in the mood to be there that day, and those are probably the worst ones at the end of the day. The other ones are maybe nice in their funny value, but those are the worst.
That one that we mentioned before, where there was dog poop on the stage in Saskatoon, it was so bad, like literally so bad, that Ryan took a phone call in the middle of the set.
Amazing.
That's true. That is a true story.
Amazing.
There's two people in the audience. They're not listening, and I had been waiting for this phone call, and we just couldn't connect. And right in the middle of the show, I'm like, guys, just, you know,
nice.
Stretch. I'm out of here.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back.
Yeah, just left Ben and I rhythm sectioning it up for 5 minutes while he ran outside.
Just vamp.
Yeah.
Just vamp.
I noticed you didn't want to tell them about the tantrum you threw after you stepped in the dog crap.
Oh God, that was. It was. I mean, the whole gig was just so terrible. Like, if it was in a basement, and we had a Yamaha CP70 baby grand electric piano that we were, you know, loaded all the way down there, and then you know, by the time we've loaded everything down, we realized no one's showing up.
No one's coming.
The promoter basically went on vacation and forgot that this gig was happening, or something like that, you know. And
well, he didn't even stick around. He showed up. Hey, have a great show, guys.
He showed up, threw the gum out on the tables, and left. So I'm setting up my gear. You know, I'm the only guy on the stage. This was piano, bass, and drums, so I'm the only one on the stage who stands. So I get my gear on the stage, and I go to set up my mic, you know, my pedal board and stuff, and I can smell dog poop. I can smell poop pungently.
Poop.
Like I can just, it's like that's not, you know. But the sound guy's this weird dude's walking around. He's telling the story about, you know, last week Tom Green was in here and he drank a dozen raw eggs, and then he puked into this monitor. So I haven't really been able to get it to work lately. And I'm thinking maybe he works on a farm or something. And then I look down right where I had been standing. Was some dog poop with the tread pattern of my shoes in it. And I just turned to him and I said, you know, I really don't give a I was a little more vulgar, but I said, I really don't give a crap about the monitors. I'm more worried about why there's dog poop on the stage, and now it's all over the bottom of my shoes. And he just turned to me and said, oh yeah, the owner's got a dog, comes down here and does that sometimes.
Yeah, and there's no way I'm cleaning it.
Yeah, and I stormed off the stage, grabbed a bunch of straws from the bar, went into the washroom to take now I'm standing in this gross washroom with my shoes off, trying to get the dog poop out of the bottom with the straws.
This was the highlight of the tour for me.
Yeah.
Me and
well,
Ben,
and I guess the only,
you can imagine.
The second worst gig we played Saskatoon on the way out west, and on the way back, we played at a different venue,
Oh, yeah.
and all of my clothes got stolen.
What?
My bag
Oh,
got
no.
stolen. Yeah, when we were loading into the venue, you know, you take stuff out of the van, you set it on the
Oh.
sidewalk, and then and in
I
the
can't
shuffle,
handle it. Oh,
in the
this is
shuffle,
awesome.
my bag with all of my everything, like I had. So after that was gone, all I had was the clothes on my back, and then I had like a stage shirt in my courier bag, you know, and that was it.
Oh my God.
Oh, I can't handle it, man. Oh,
That show was better. That was a much
that
nicer
was a
show.
great show. Yeah.
But
Oh.
you know,
I see
Shame
where your
about-
focus is.
Shame about
Yeah.
having all your belongings stolen.
Oh man.
What
and then
a
that
great
created a
awful.
whole chain of events in Winnipeg. The following shows in Winnipeg, I hadn't showered and changed my clothes in days, and I was like, well, we got to do breakfast television and in Winnipeg. I'm like, I don't care. Who cares? No one I know is in Winnipeg. And then that was right around the time when everyone got satellite TV. So immediately after breakfast television, I get a call from my sister going, hey, Jace,
Dude.
are you okay? You didn't look so good. I'm wearing the same clothes I've been wearing for 4 days. I stayed up. It was my birthday the night before. I stayed up all night with our drummer, drinking someplace with a trumpet player from some band. It was
It's living the dream, isn't it?
good times.
Yeah.
As an orchestral player, this doesn't happen to me so much. We have other smaller stories, but certainly nothing with excrement in it. I think the most uncomfortable I ever was actually this this one year I made more money playing in a military pipe band, and I don't play pipes or drums, just let me be clear. As a flutist, I made more money as that kind of musician because I had a friend, and this comes back to the marching band that you guys mentioned. I marched, like our school had a marching band in the Santa Claus parade. Worst gig ever, I could tell you that.
I did that. I did it.
Right. And we never got on TV, never were mentioned. We've been the band in the Santa Claus parade from the beginning, but they never mentioned us. The little people in the fur coats never mentioned us. Anyway, so because I'd marched in bands and I was in a sea cadet a million years ago, my guitarist said, I need somebody just to carry a drum. We're doing like some kind of march past fool thing in Trenton. Like, come, you'll get like $20 for the day and some free food. It's like, okay, get me a uniform. So here I am dressed, and then the guys were fun, and they were a really fabulous pipe band. But I'm just banging. I was like, well, I'm not going to carry a drum and not do something, like I've got some sense of rhythm. So I kind of was making it up. I don't do the flippy things. I tried it once and hit myself in the head. So the tenor drummers, they don't really, often don't play the tenor drum. They just flip the sticks around. So anyway, but I actually put some rhythm in, and we had some fun. So this one year we actually did really well, and we were sent to Scotland. So this one year I got paid for a trip to Scotland. I got paid daily pay and all kinds of fun stuff. And here I am 4 months pregnant, wearing wool from head to foot in August in throughout Ontario. And then in Scotland, where it's slightly more okay to wear wool, but it's also hot and wet. So I spent my entire summer, but I made a lot of money to wear hot, wet wool. But I didn't
Smells
play
so
my
good.
flute at all that whole year. I made more money playing a drum than I played my own instrument.
There you go.
So yeah, that's my story. It's not as exciting as yours.
I won't even
appreciate
get
it.
into the cowbell stories because I
Not safe for work.
it's not safe for
Safe
work.
for work.
We play in Amsterdam too much.
Yeah.
We've
I
been
went on-
chased out. We have been chased out of towns though.
That's nice.
For sure.
That's for the naughty edition of Music Makers.
Yeah.
2.0. Anyway, well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. It was so nice I actually met all of you. I didn't realize it's playing behind you. So I'm sorry, but I hope we can all play together again sometime.
Yeah,
Thanks
me
for-
too.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for doing this, Jay, and being such a great
Yeah.
host. And
Yeah.
we miss
Awesome.
you all terribly.
You're awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye,
See
everybody.
you
See you
later.
guys.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye bye.